How are you guys doing? This is Ryan. Welcome back to the channel. What a crazy week it's been. The election took place on November 3rd, and we're going now into the following week, and we still don't have a president. We haven't seen anything like this since George Bush and Al Gore in 2000, when down here in Florida we had issue counting our votes with the hanging Chad. But what does all this mean for the stock market, and why is the stock market going up so fast? It's truly incredible. Just last week I made a video about the stock market crash, and here we are with turmoil and election, and the stock market is soaring without the certainty of a president. But I'd have to say it looks like it's very likely that Joe Biden is actually going to be our next president. And I previously made a video about what would the stock market do if Joe Biden's elected. So I want to jump into that further in this week's video. So let's jump into it. So like I said, it looks like Joe Biden is likely to be president. In the stock market, I believe is already pricing that in. The entire stock market is doing very well, but you're seeing things specifically like chip makers like NVDIA, AMD, Applied Materials have an amazing week. Companies that rely a lot on Asia. And Trump was very tough with China in the trade war, and it looks like the market's already pricing in maybe a change. And in my previous video, I have to say a lot of people responded to that video saying that the market was going to do horrible if Donald Trump was not re-elected. I'll read you a few comments right here. This guy wasn't dramatic at all, but he said in 3 days the market will hit zero and die. Here's another comment. Joe Biden would raise your taxes, destroy your 401k and your children's future. Remember this when you vote. And this kind of went on and on. So that was very much the sentiment in that video, a lot of the comments. And even when you looked at people who voted for Donald Trump, their major concern with over 50% of voters as to the reason why they were voting for Donald Trump is because their concerns of the socialist agenda taking over the economy. And I believe it was like 52% of voters, this was their number one reason to vote for Donald Trump. On the other side, over 70% of Biden voters voted for Biden for the mere reason that they wanted Donald Trump out of office. Again, none of this is like my own feelings towards it. This is what I read and understand on how I'm studying the election and how it's going to affect the stock market and my portfolio. So take this all with that grain of salt. And understand that this is just what I'm doing, not financial advice. Take it as entertainment. So you have all these deep-seated fears from Trump voters that Biden's socialist big government will crush the stock market. But I think one thing that voters are probably overlooking is one that presidents don't have as much power as maybe you think. And to change legislation, you need 2 houses of government to pass. You have to get through the House and the Senate. And it looks like we're gonna have a divided House and Senate, which would make for a lot of gridlock. So you'd actually have a lot of inaction. And the way the economy is moving now will likely be the economy moving for the next few years. So everyone waiting for this drastic change in fundamentals to the market in regards to government interference, how drastic can things change when you have gridlock in Washington? So perhaps I think the market likes that there's gonna be this division, and we will soon have a new president and gridlock in Washington, and business can get back to usual. Look, there's a chance Trump can still win the election. I'm not saying that, just from what I'm reading, it seems unlikely. But probably the most important thing I think we have to understand when looking at politicians and a president and the market is that presidents get too much credit and too much blame. So Herbert Hoover once said, presidents get praise for the sun and blame for the rain. So he was actually the president that was in office when the Great Depression hit, and boy did he get blamed for the rain. So what I'm trying to say here is that there's macro trends that affect the market that have very little to do with the presidency, and the market is such a powerful force, and the market's gonna do most of the time what the market's gonna wanna do. And like I said, we have gridlock in Washington, and if there's gonna be some huge kind of fundamental anti-capitalist thing that takes over the government one day, it's not gonna be overnight, I believe. It's gonna be through gradualism. So I can't remember who said this quote, but how do you kill a frog? You can't throw him into a pot of boiling hot water, but if you put that frog into room temperature hot water and you slowly turned up the heat, the frog would dehydrate. So our country and all the greatness we have will probably die off in a more slow way. Hopefully a long time from now, I don't know. Author and historian Will Durant says that nations are born stoic and die Epicurean. And what that pretty much means is that nations are born of like rugged and tough individuals, and they die Epicurean, like overly philosophical and soft, and they lose those traits that made them once great. But I really believe that those days are very far off in the future. And I believe the macro trends of the market is extremely bullish. I've stated several times on this channel that we are in the roaring 20s 2.0. The fundamentals of the market look very exciting for me, being a young investor, and I think the next 10 years are gonna be really exciting. People often overestimate what they can do in a year, but really underestimate what they can do in a decade. If you believe you can make a lot of wealth in the next decade, please subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, give this video a thumbs up so you don't miss any videos. But we are on the brink of tons of innovations in the market, and we are in a long-term bull market cycle that started back in 2009 and will likely run for 20 plus years. Just like we saw a bull market cycle go from 1980 to 2000, and just like we saw a bull market cycle go from World War II up into 1970. These markets rebuild out of great crashes. Like this bull market really started after the end of the housing crisis, and we leave a cycle where commodities are very expensive. When commodities are cheap and very profitable to mine and farm and do things like that, you're gonna have a lot of supply, and that leaves billions and billions of dollars that are available to invest in equities, and that's what's gonna happen. And if you look at companies like ARK Invest, all they're doing is focusing on disruptive and innovative companies, because the world as we know it is gonna be very different, in a good way. I'm sure if any of you speak to your grandparents, if you're around my age, that they lived in the horse and buggy day. They lived before the television, and now we have supercomputers in our pockets. Things are gonna change this drastically in our lifetimes, just like they changed in our grandparents' lifetimes. That is most likely to happen in my opinion. And it doesn't matter who the president is. Apple's gonna sell a lot of phones. A lot of people are gonna use Facebook for social media. A lot of people are gonna use Google as their search engine to find things. A lot of people will shop on Amazon. People are gonna do these things whether Joe Biden is president or Donald Trump is president. And people like myself are gonna buy Tesla vehicles. And I gotta say, I was buying stocks last week because there was a lot of weakness. And I'm not selling stocks this week, but I'm not buying stocks. I just think there's a little too much optimism at the moment. I'll wait for better prices, and if I don't get them at some point, I'll reassess in the near future. But if you're watching this video and you are kind of like down about the election for any reason, I came across a really good quote that I think could provide inspiration, and it's from a guy on Twitter. I don't even know who he is, but his name's Anthony Dale. I'll put his handle here. And this says, no matter who wins the election, victims will still find someone to blame for their failures, and the hardworking, driven innovators will find a way to excel because that's what winners do. Presidents don't change that. So don't make politics too much of your life. Honestly, I'll tell you a true story. I used to be really into politics. And I have to say, it was a lot like rocking in a rocking chair. It was fun to do for a while, but I wasn't getting anywhere. So I took that energy and I moved it all into investing. Because in politics, you're trying to understand how the world works. And in investing, you're trying to understand how the world works too. But investing, you can actually make money. Politics, you'll end up losing a lot of friends and arguing with people over things that really don't have as much to do with your life as you think they do, in my opinion. But if you agree, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. But I truly hope everyone out there is doing well and getting ready for a happy holiday season. Hopefully you can spend some time with family if possible. I know the whole COVID thing has things strange. In the Giffen household, for some reason, we are now ready for Christmas, if you can believe it. Sorry, my wife runs a decor YouTube channel, so she's always ahead of the season to produce content. But anyways, I wish you all well. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all next week. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'll put my handle here. But as always, guys, until next time.